Hey everyone, and welcome back. So in this video, let's talk about observables. NestJS is with observable is one of the most important topic, and even if you don't know observables, you will still be able to work in the NestJS. You might have seen interceptors, HTTP call, and you might have seen last value from at a lot of different places. Even I can show you in this demo. You might have just ignored it, right? Because the having the knowledge of observable is not really necessary. But under the hood, how these observables are really working, that can help us to understand a lot of things. So let's talk about what are the observables in simple term. Why NestJS prefers observables over promises? I mean, even if your controller is returning an observable, you don't need to resolve it or you don't need to extract the value by doing a observable.subscribe. NestJS internally handles it. So let's say I'm not talking about observable here. Let's say if I'm doing simple axios.get, if it is returning a promise, NestJS controller will resolve it automatically. So you can just return a promise or return an observable. NestJS controller will resolve it and it will return you the data. You don't need to write, okay, await, right? Or you just subscribe the observable and try to get the value from it. You don't need to do. So we'll talk about like what are the common RxJS operators we use, right? And what is observable first of all. It's like a you might have used callback functions and then promises, and now observables is something where the value is being returned multiple times or multiple values are being emitted from the stream of the data over the time, right? Promises are mostly one-time response. Like let's say if you do axios.get put post, that is all happening only one time. So if I talk about RxJS is inspired and Angular is fully inspired with the observables, you might see everything is observable there. Observable represent an idea or invocable connection of future values, right? So NestJS is using RxJS. Observables are cancelable, lazy, powerful, and async pipeline where you are actually getting data from the async pipeline, right? You can use promises also. There is no harm, but promises are like one time. You cannot cancel them, and observables are powerful. So if I talk about simple examples of observable, here I'm creating observable object, right? And then you can actually subscribe to the observable. This is important. I created an observable and then you just subscribe to it. But in NestJS controller, this thing is not there because we don't need to subscribe. We don't need to resolve the promise or we don't need to actually subscribe the observable and get the value. This is what I'm showing. So this is returning an observable, but you don't need to subscribe and get the value. So that is the advantage which NestJS is providing. Similarly, there is HTTP module which is using observable. So here if you see get user, what get user is giving me, HTTP service is the NestJS inbuilt HTTP service dot get. Okay, it is giving me the observables and then I'm just writing some operators like map, tap and catch error and I'm returning. So this get user is actually returning an observable of any. And in this demo controller, I'm just calling it and then returning the observable. NestJS controller is resolving it and extracting the values out of it. So what we are doing here, we don't need to subscribe this particular observable. So common Rx operators you will see get used by ID. We just do map or catch error. Catch error is just to catch a particular error is coming. Map is to just map tap. Map is to transform the data sometimes. Tap is only just to log the data. Okay, what all data we are getting. So observables in the interceptors. Let me show the example if I can. Here inside interceptors, yes, catch error and last value from. So this is the pipe. So what we are doing is a next dot handle. Interceptor must return an observable. That is the important thing. So I think this is returning an observable and then we are doing a pipe to extract the data. So tab will just give you the information whatever is coming inside a observable stream. And if there is a catch error, that will go here. So observable and promises are two things. NestJS heavily uses observable Actually, observables we are using whenever we are actually dealing with the HTTP client service in the NestJS. Like here, I registered a HTTP client module, which is a NestJS build. I mean, I'm not using Axios, I'm using NestJS Axios. That is important. And this HTTP module is using a observable. So I registered this module here globally. And now inside a controller or inside a service, I can inject the HTTP service, right? And when you do get, this HTTP service dot get is actually returning an observable. Now on top of that, you can, what you can do is you can do a dot pipe, all the operators. You just run a dot pipe, and inside the pipe you can run all the different operations: map, tap, merge, map. I mean, there are many operators, Rx operators, which you can see in official documentation, right? Piping, this is how we do it. Merge pipe, I mean, in Angular I used many. Empty, from, these are the creation operator of observable, and then these are the transformation operators. So this is how all these things are connected. So instead of using, I mean, I'm not big fan of observable ideally. I mean, observable it internally uses in the interceptors and all, but I don't need to explicitly write my code heavily on the observables, but you should understand the concept. Okay, because here you see create post. What it is doing is it is making HTTP call post using HTTP client service, then doing dot pipe. We are running a different operations on that. So dot pipe is allow you to transform it through all the different operators. So what pipe is doing? I mean, pipe is like, you can say, a stream. It gives you the pipe, implements pipe, or, and under that you can actually do all the transformation, merge map, map, filter map, tap, catcher, all the different operations, and it will return the final observable, right? So similarly, we are doing it everywhere. Here, get with retry, same thing. We are calling it from the controller. So here, I think this is using promises. I mean, you can also convert observable into promise. You can say convert observable into promise using last value from. Get first user first value from. I think this is also a promise. So there are some operators, like these are also operators, first value from, last value from, because now this observable is returning a single value, and wherever you are returning a single value, it's better to convert it into promises. So here you can see this request, this is an observable. So observables are very helpful when you are doing a lot of operations, transformation on the asynchronous operations using merge map. Lot of operators are there. So Rx library, fork, join, map, tap are really very helpful operators when you are writing a extensive code where you are actually merging, aggregating. Then I think you can take the advantage of using observables. Otherwise, in the day-to-day life, I don't think you really need observable to add more heavy code on the observables. You can also deal with the simple promises, because mostly what we do is we make an API call that you can also do with the Axios. You don't need to worry about, okay, it is going to return a stream of data, because in that case it's like a one-time data from the HTTP service, get, put, post, delete, patch, not like a stream of data which is coming over the time where you need to transform, implement, and all those things you have to do. Okay, so this is pretty much how we implement. Rx is like in with NestJS Rx we added, and this HTTP client module is nothing but a library which is heavily using RxJS. And if you are making a lot of HTTP interactions, then I think you can use it.